Hello and welcome to the Coors Event Center for 5280 Sports Network. I am Matt Smith. Thanks so much for tuning in. Well, Colorado drops another tough game tonight, 71-68. They lose to the number 25 USC Trojans. This was a tough loss for the Buffaloes. They committed 17 turnovers in this game, allowed USC 20 points off of their turnovers, and allowed USC 17 offensive rebounds. Well, right off the bat, whenever you mention those numbers, the fact that you're even in a game is a blessing. And Colorado had a real shot to win despite not playing a complete game by any stretch, and very well down the stretch in this ball game. In the first half, the Buffaloes were 7 of 11 from the three-point line, dealing with the USC 3-2 zone defense. It caused some problems after the 11-minute mark of that first half. The USC would go on a 23-12 run there, get back in the game, only trailed by one at halftime, 35-34. Then out of the second half, it was a tight ball game despite some sloppy play from both teams. In fact, there was a 7-minute stretch in this game where USC did not even score a basket. They made some free throws, but no baskets. Colorado would trail by 7 with 5 minutes and 20 seconds left, eventually battled back, and Xavier Johnson hit the Barnum & Bailey Ringling Brothers three-point circus shot at the end of the shot clock with about 43 seconds left after USC called the timeout immediately thereafter. It was extremely impressive, and I'm a little surprised it even went in, but he gave the Buffs the lead, 68-67, and in the ensuing possession, Metu, who had slayed the Buffs all night long, he had 20 points in the first half for this USC team, who as a 6'11 sophomore for the Trojans has made some great strides in just 1 year. 20 points the first half. Buffs did a good job in the second half. Credit has to go to Wesley Gordon there. Great individual defense. Only 4 points in the second half for Metu, but at the end of the game, a great play was made one-on-one with Wes Gordon, and I actually had to go back on the game film just now to review it because I wanted to see exactly how far away from the basket Metu was when he made the jump hook. Well, he was above the second hash. It was a ridiculous jump hook for Metu, who's really turned himself into potentially an NBA prospect here in his sophomore year. But for the Buffaloes, tough late game execution. They had 2 possessions with 26.4 left on the clock. With 26.4, they were down by 1. Derek White refused to ball screen, went opposite of the ball screen, handed off to George King at the right wing. He would drive, but an ill-advised decision, goes up 1-on-2, throws up a wild layup. USC would get the rebound, make 2 free throws. The Buffs again have a chance to tie the game in the closing seconds. Derek White with a pretty open baseline drive, but at that point, with under 12 seconds left, the Buffs needed a 3. He kicked it out to King, who hesitated on very good defense. The guy was there on the catch. I can't remember off the top of my head who it was who was there, but he gave George no breathing room. George kind of pump fake, hesitated for a minute, then threw up a wild 3 that actually had an outside chance of going in, but really low percentage looks in the final 2 possessions of this game. And Colorado didn't make enough plays tonight, and that was something that Tad Boyle talked about in the post-game press conference, that this team had a chance even playing poorly tonight, but they couldn't execute down the stretch. Now, this is a tough loss for Colorado. They start 0-5, like I said, but some questions arise out of this game that I'm not so sure that heading into this one that they were going to. Del Brown only played 6 minutes tonight after starting his 2nd consecutive game, with Josh Fortune moving to the bench. Fortune only played 3 minutes against UCLA the other night, but actually, I believe 14 tonight for Josh Fortune. But Del Brown was actually subbed out of that first half, I think, with like 2.5 minutes that had transpired at the 17:30 mark. Didn't play again, played 4 minutes in that second half. Rotations were a bit confusing tonight. Dom Collier, like I said, first half 11 points, made 3 threes and a basket, of course. Did a good job facilitating. Then in the second half, he pretty much disappeared. Just 1 field goal attempt. Wes Gordon tonight, who was coming off back-to-back very good games and 2 consistent efforts for Wes, which is what we've been wanting to see out of Wes Gordon. Just 0 of 1 tonight in 25 minutes. He did deal with foul trouble as Colorado in the first half tried whatever they could to deal with Metu in the post, but Wes actually came back and, to his credit, did a very good job on Metu in the second half. Tad after the game said our first shot defense was good, but 17 offensive rebounds, you can't do that and expect to win in this league. He said this team's problem defensively is ball screen defense, guarding the ball, and boxing out. Well, if you know basketball, there's really not that much more left to playing defense. So Colorado's got to find a way to take some pride in the defensive end of the floor here moving forward with 12 games left in this regular season prior to the Pac-12 tournament in Vegas. Boyle also said when it sticks, we're easy to guard. When it moves, we're hard to guard. He said offensively, they need more paint touches and they need to move the ball. Well, it's kind of boilerplate stuff from Colorado, but what you have to be concerned about is how they were able to execute so well in the first 10 minutes of that first half against that 3-2 zone. Against that 3-2 zone, and then immediately afterwards struggle just standing around, not moving off of the ball, not cutting hard. The ball stuck a little bit, and really USC, like I said, a 23-12 run in the final 11 minutes of that first half to get back into this game. The execution lacked tonight, but they shot the ball well from the three-point line the first half. But like I always say, shot makes cover up a lot of other issues that you may have, and it's tough to see, of course, because you may be winning the game at that point. For Colorado, this is getting awfully close to being to spiraling downwards, just to put it honestly. They're 0-5 in conference. Their next two are on the road at Washington and at Wazoo. Thank goodness, because Washington is actually struggling quite a bit right now from a defensive perspective. They're no good. It's just Markelle Fultz on that team, who is most likely going to be a top 5 NBA draft pick. So they're going to have to deal with that. That game is on Wednesday coming up. It's a 9 p.m. Mountain Time start on ESPNU. Then they actually go to play Washington State on Saturday, an afternoon game at 2 p.m., which Colorado desperately needs a win. They are 0-5 in conference, like I said, 5-game losing streak. If they do not get a win and start to slowly turn this thing around, this could spiral. You've got a group of experienced veterans here that can't find a way to put it together and do the things that they have done for the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, you got 4 fifth-year seniors on this team and 1 fourth-year junior. You've got guys who played a lot of basketball. And like we talked about after that UCLA game, if you can find a way to chip away, tonight would have been a great start, but they lose in a pretty deflating manner. So I'll be very curious to see how they perform as they pack it up to take it on the road. Afterwards, Tad said he didn't really know if it was a good or a bad thing to be going on the road right now. And how could you know? You don't know what you're going to get on a nightly basis from this team, and that's the issue, is the consistency issue. It's been what we've talked about all season long, and quite frankly, the staples of defense and rebounding for Tad Boyle, they're there, but the emphasis, it feels like, from a player's perspective, mind you, certainly the coaches have been emphasizing it plenty, but from a player's perspective, it just doesn't seem like the pride is there, and especially that's necessary to make a deep run in this conference. If you're looking at the NCAA tournament, certainly an at-large bid is out the window, because your big opportunities to get signature wins that would have solidified your resume are now gone. So you have to be able to put together a solid run and be a competent enough team by the time the Pac-12 tournament starts to make a run, potentially winning that, even though that seems extremely daunting at this point in time. Right now, NIT would seem to be best case scenario for this basketball team, and I'm sure a lot of you out there are thinking CBI like we saw in 2014, 2015. It's been a tough go of it here for a basketball team that had a ton of expectations, not just from outside the program, but from inside. Remember now, Tad thought that this team could be a top 25 team this season, and they have certainly not performed up to that level. It's been a tough season for Colorado basketball, and you know, with Colorado football's resurgence, it's completely understandable to think, well, basketball had a good run at this point. I just don't see that being the case. This is a coaching staff that's brought in talent before. They've got a really good recruiting class coming in next year. If they can find a way to stem the tide and turn it around, you do not want to end this season the way that you're playing right now, because the mood going into next year is not going to be very good, despite losing the majority of their leadership next season. Well, they're going to have another chance to get back on track and find their first Pac-12 win of this season and their first win of 2017 on Wednesday at 9 p.m. from Seattle. Of course, Seattle has some scarred memories for Buffs fans. I'm sure you know what it is I'm talking about. I am Matt Smith from the Coors Event Center. Thank you for tuning in. 71-68, the Buffs fall tonight. 3 straight losses against 3 ranked teams, 5-game losing streak for this basketball team. Can they pull it together? Because if they lose the next 2 games on the road, if they lose these 2 games on the road, when they come back to play Oregon State in Oregon, they're going to be in really rough shape. Go online and follow our family of podcasts at 5280sportsnetwork.com. And you can follow me on Twitter at RealMattSmith. Also, that's Matt with 1 T, by the way. Check us out on Twitter as well at 5280sportsnet, or go online at 5280sportsnetwork.com.